Hey guys, and welcome to Gwent, the Witcher card game. My name is Jaggerous, and today I'm going to be looking at the Gwent Master Mirror expansion card reveals. I'll have a link in the description where you can see the reveals yourself, but we do have an expansion dropping on the 30th of June, so I wanted to take a look at some of the cards, and I'm going to be doing separate videos for each expansion because they are kind of announcing or revealing cards, you know, faction by faction, and today we're going to be kicking things off with the neutral cards because they have all been revealed. So let's have a little look, shall we? Okay, so first things first, we've got some bronze spells or special cards. This is Pact. Boost a unit by 6 and give it doomed. Okay, so this I'm not really sure about. Like, you have a 6-point boost and it's a spell, so there's some things that, you know, where spell tags are important, but all it does is give a unit 6 points, and we have other cards that do similar things. Swallow Potion, for example, I think does a very similar thing. So I'm not entirely sure how giving doomed to a unit is useful, but there may be cards in the future where like having doomed is beneficial. You know, going through Dim, for example, that card destroys a unit with doom, so that's the thing. Also, like Vincent from Nilfgaard destroys a unit with a status, but then you're boosting a unit, so why would you want to boost your opponent's unit? That doesn't really make sense. Like, this seems to be a card that you would play on your own units, and so I'm not really sure why giving yourself doomed is beneficial. Next up, we have Will-O-the-Wisp, destroy a doomed unit. So yeah, you could boost an opponent's unit and give it doomed and then destroy it with Will-O-the-Wisp. And again, it's a bit of an odd synergy there. There are some tall units with doomed. For example, I believe Savola from Syndicate has doomed. Also, Shoop, if you play Shoop Knight, he's an 8-point unit with doomed. So there are some okay targets for this, but again, not entirely sure where this will fit in currently. I think there's a lot of these kind of bronze specials where they don't really have a space within decks, but then occasionally there will be situations where you can kind of tech them in and they become useful, so this is kind of just giving you more tech options, I suppose. Then we have Offering. Damage a unit by 1. Deathblow. Play a bronze unit from your graveyard and give it doomed. Now, you might think this is kind of bad. However, it's not an enemy unit, it's a unit. So I could see this being useful in maybe in Northern Realms where you have Ronvid the Incessant. So Ronvid, you play him, and then in the future when you play a soldier, he comes out as a 1-point body. So he gives you a 1-point body, and then you can kill him, and then resurrect a bronze unit, and if it's a soldier, you would then resurrect Ronvid as well. So it kind of gives options for Northern Realms that actually have resurrection. So this I actually think could be quite interesting, allowing you to replay some of your bronze cards. So this I don't actually think is completely, you know, awful. Another situation that actually is very good, now that I think about it, is monsters, right? Because this gives you an option to resurrect your Endrega Lava. You know, you damage a unit by 1, so let's say you're playing Gurnakora or Gurnakora's Fruit or whatever that leader ability is called. The one where you spawn 1-point Thrive units. You play this, you kill the 1-point Thrive unit, you get more Endregas on the board, and you could replay them, and Endrega Lava is probably the strongest bronze card in the game, so this, yeah, I do see this having some kind of niche applications where it would actually be, I would say, pretty good, so interesting card. Okay, so these are all faction cards, so we'll move on, find some more neutrals. Here we go, Squirrel. So Squirrel's a beast. When you play it, you banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. So this gives every faction access to this sort of mechanic. At the moment, Nilfgaard can do that. They have a card which banishes from your opponent's graveyard. But this does it for everything. And I think this is quite interesting because they've added this new mechanic called Echo. So you have Echo cards. I revealed one on my YouTube. For example, let's see if I can find one of them for you here. Here we go. Coup de grace. Coup de grace. Tactic. Echo. So Echo, what it does is at the start of the round, if this card is in your graveyard, it moves it to the top of your deck and gives it doomed. So you would play this in, say, round 1. Then at the start of round 2, it would go from the graveyard to the top of your deck, and you'd be able to play it once more. However, when it's in your graveyard, it means that Squirrel has the opportunity to banish it. So this actually gives you counters to some strategies like that. It's also useful against things, say, like monsters with Osril, where they consume from the graveyard. It could be quite good against Skellige, where they move cards from the graveyard to the deck. Also, Nilfgaard can do that. So quite a flexible card, and it may see some play, I think, especially in tournaments when you try to counter certain strategies. Maybe not so much on ladder, but definitely I would say this might get played in tournaments. Then we have Fortune Teller. Human. Deploy melee. Give doomed to a unit. Range. Give veil to unit. So this, I guess, synergizes with Will-O-the-Wisp, right? Like, we play Will-O-the-Wisp, we destroy a doomed unit. So we give a unit doomed and then we destroy it. Give Veil to units. So Veil is a status, which means that you can no longer apply statuses to a unit. So if you put Veil on a unit, it means it can't be poisoned, you can't apply Bounty, you can't apply Vitality or Bleeding, you can't apply a shield. So it's quite a flexible status, and I'm still not entirely sure where it's going to see play, but I think it's going to make things quite interesting, because there will definitely be cards where Veil will be used to protect them. However, they can still be damaged, so it's not like immunity where you can't hit it at all. You can still damage the card, you can still, you know, target the card for things like move, but you can't apply statuses. So again, this is an interesting card. Not sure. It's kind of hard to judge these neutrals, because obviously they go to every faction, so it's hard to tell kind of where they sit on the power level. Next up, we have, oh, I like this one. We have Oniromancy. So Oniromancy is an echo card, and it allows you to play a card from your deck. So this is basically like Royal Decree, but you can play it twice. So you play it, and then again, like I said, echo on the start of the next round, it'll go to the top of your deck. So this is targeted draw, and it's targeted draw for any card. Whereas Royal Decree, I believe, is a unit, so you can use this to play anything. And you might think, holy cheese balls, Jaggerous, like that is insane. And yes, it is a very, very powerful card. However, there is also now a new mechanic in the game called Devotion. And what Devotion does is it's a mechanic that triggers if your card only contains faction cards. So a Neuromancy is a neutral card, which means if you're running a Neuromancy, you can't trigger Devotion effects. So it's worth just being a little bit aware of that in regards to deck building. But yeah, I think this is a really staple card, and it's got some, if I move my mouse out of the way, some fabulous art as well. The art on that card is really lovely. So I think this is definitely a card that's going to see some play out of the, you know, the neutrals that we've seen. Okay, so next up we have, oh, I'm in the way. There you go. We have Ethereal Demon Doomed. At the end of your turn, if this unit on the right is not a demon, transform it into a base copy of self. So I think what this does is you play it, and then because it makes a base copy of itself, if you had like a load of ones, for example, on the right, like maybe like a swarm list, you play it, and then at the end of the turn, the unit on the right turns into a 4-point demon, right? And then on the next turn, you have 2 demons. And you could always play a unit between the demons to transform another unit. But then if you kill one of the demons, the second demon should still trigger to transform. So this seems like a demon engine that is very, very difficult to stop, right? You play one demon, it transforms its friend into a demon, and then there's 2 demons to deal with, and it's at the end of your turn, right? So this should trigger the turn that you play it, I believe. So you play it, and then you have 2 demons for your opponent to deal with. I'm not entirely sure. You know, this is the kind of card where you'd have to play it to kind of understand exactly how it works. But this does seem like a very powerful tool for decks like Swarm List, you know, decks where you're playing a lot of small ones, because you could basically just turn all of those ones into 4s, you know, over time, and that seems quite powerful. So we'll see, but that is an interesting card. Next up we have, this is actually art from a community contest. So this was actually community drawn art. You wouldn't be able to tell, would you? It's really impressive. But this is the Old God. He's a relic, and he boosts 3 units in your deck by 2. Which I don't think is awful. I think there's situations where that's actually quite useful. Things like, you know, if you're playing the dwarves from Squirrel, where if they're boosted, they boost every turn, for example. You could also use this to protect certain cards. Like if you have certain powerful cards that you want to protect in order to ensure that they get played. I mean, it might be really annoying, for example, against lists like Nilfgaard, where they play Stefan and Damien, because you can boost them to make them harder to remove as well. So this is actually quite an interesting card if you have cards that you want to protect. And it is what, like a 10 for 10, which isn't great in terms of provisions, but if you protect cards and ensure their effects, then obviously you get a bit more value out of it. So I do think there's certain decks that actually will really like this card, depending on what you're trying to do. And I think it's quite an interesting card as well. I've probably said they're all interesting. This is like, oh, this is so interesting. Okay, next up, Siegfried of Denizil. Deploy Purify all other units. So everything. Your side of the board, their side of the board, everything. This is interesting. Obviously, just interesting. Everything is interesting. I need more vocabulary. This is intriguing because I feel like this card does have some niche scenarios where it could be very useful. So you're purifying everything. So when are you going to have multiple units that you want to purify? It's very strong against vampires, because vampires is going to apply a lot of bleeding to your board, and you can purify all of the bleeding in one go. It's also, I think, going to have uses for monsters, because they have a card called, I believe it's called a Baya Grave Hag, where you play it and it boosts based on the number of cards in your graveyard. Now, monsters has a lot of doomed units, right? The Arrakis, for example. You play a lot of doomed units, the little rats that you play. And if you can purify them all and remove their doomed tags, they will go to your graveyard, which means that when you play Grave Hag, you're going to get a much bigger finisher and a much larger boost than you currently can achieve. So actually, I do think, Monster Swarm lists have some interesting tools here. This is one, the Ethereal is one, for example, that could really boost their strength. Also, there is a Skellige card. I believe it's called the Corrupted Flaminica. I'm not 100% sure on the name, but what it does is it boosts based on the number of beasts in your graveyard. And the problem is that things like crows are doomed. There's a lot of beasts that you can play that are doomed beasts. So getting enough beasts into your graveyard to make that card viable is quite tricky. However, with Siegfried, if you resurrect, you create a lot of crows and then you purify them, they should go to your graveyard, give you more beasts in your graveyard. More beasts means you should see more power from this card. So, interesting card. Interesting. Interesting is my word of the day. For fuck's sake, Jaggerous, sort your shit out. I apologize for my language. Okay, Master Mirror, here we go. So, this is a bit of a cheese card. It's got Veil. It's got 6 strength. You play it, and you transform the leftmost card in your hand into a random legendary unit from your faction. That was not in your starting deck. And then it will repeat this whenever you play the rightmost card in your hand deck. So if you start playing your rights, then your lefts turn into legendaries. But they're not ones that you have in your deck. So this is obviously, I think this is a bit of a meme card. I mean, you can make an all bronze list, right? You make an all bronze list that has no legendaries from your faction. Then you play, I guess you could maybe play this and renew. So you play Master Mirror. You start turning your cards into legendaries. At some point, the round ends. You play Renew. You start turning all your cards back into legendaries. And eventually, he's going to start transforming legendaries into other legendaries, right? But I feel like that's still probably beneficial. I don't know. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is a fun card. And I like when they add fun cards to the game just because it creates bizarre scenarios. Okay, next up, Marlene de Trastamara. Veil. Order. Give a unit Veil. So this I don't know how to assess in terms of power, just because I find it really hard to judge how good Veil is going to be. This could be a very good card. It could be kind of mediocre, but it is an order, so you have to wait a turn in order to do it. It has 6 strength. 6 strength is hard to remove. And I'm wondering what it is you're going to play that you immediately want to give Veil to, right? Because you'd imagine you would play this, and then on the next turn you would play something else that you want to give Veil to. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure how powerful Veil is. I feel like it's an odd mechanic. I'm kind of like hedging my bets on that one, to be honest, you guys. Okay, let's keep going. Is that everything? That is everything. Look at that. That is the neutral card review. As you may agree, I think it was very interesting. I think there's some really oh my god, I'm doing it again. There's some really, I need another word. I want to say the cards have a lot of potential. Potent? No. Intriguing. Playable. I don't know. There's some cards in this neutral set that I really do think have powerful implications, there we go, for other factions. Especially things like Skellige, things like monsters. I think there are definitely some cards here that are going to see play. Some cards I feel like maybe not so impactful. But in general, I think it's a good set of neutrals to add to the game. I think they've done a good mix of abilities and they lend themselves to existing archetypes already. Hopefully we'll also see some new archetypes coming with the faction specific cards, and we'll see how these cards can maybe lend themselves to those archetypes as well. So that is the neutral set review. Let me know what you guys thought of the cards in the comments. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Is there something that I've missed? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe leave a like and keep an eye out for future videos on kind of reviews. I'm waiting for one Nilfgaard or 2 Nilfgaard cards, right? We got a couple Nilfgaard cards and then we can do the Nilfgaard review. That will be next, hopefully. Beyond that, I've been Jaggerous. You can find me on Twitter at Jaggerous, twitch.tv/Jaggerous. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next video.